Static hums and buzzes, voices cut the silence. Truth ain't taking pauses. We the people Wednesday, speak loud, speak clear. Screech owls calling, Red's got your ear.
We the People Wednesday will begin in just a few short minutes, folks. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you still have time to jump over to the VIP Backstage Lounge at rippandrabbithole.com. If you are listening on demand, go ahead and fast forward to about the 3-minute mark and you will jump into tonight's live show. Stay tuned, folks. Show starts soon.
Late night highway, headlights chasing dreams. The rip on rabbit hole ain't as crazy as it seems. Ain't no polished lines, just hearts and fire. We the people Wednesday, speak loud, speak clear. Screech owls calling, Red's got your...
Rippin' Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Rippin' Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Late night highway, headlights chasing dreams. The rip on rabbit hole ain't as crazy as it seems. Ain't no polished lines, just hearts and fire. We the people Wednesday, shout what's real. Screech owls watching, Red's got the wheel. Eyes wave in the static air, freedom's crackling everywhere. Every voice matters, every voice dares.
Good evening and welcome to We the People Wednesday. It is Wednesday, July 8th, 2026. I am Screech Owl Scott.
And I am Red.
And we want to thank you, our co-hosts, for joining us right here on Rippin' Common Sense Radio, where your voice will be heard around the world as we discuss hot topics, recent news, and new developments. If you've dialed up We the People Wednesday, congratulations. You can now declare yourself one of the We the People people. If you're listening on Rumble or YouTube, please give We the People a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so that you will receive notifications each and every time we go live. If you want to join the We the People conversation, hop on over to rippandrabbithole.com, click on the 24/7 tab in the taskbar, scroll down until you see the backstage, click on the big red Enter Now button, allow the permissives, and join the fun. The Backstage Lounge is free and always will be. It's a great place to meet new friends and talk about anything that you want to. And I can speak from experience when I say that you will often find We the People people deep into the early AM hours. That is rippandrabbithole.com. rippandrabbithole.com. We've got, well, we have a little bit of a different format tonight because we have a very special guest, Red. So
Yes, we do.
we may, if we have some time, we may open the mics up toward the end of the show. Red is caught in a wire here and just about ripped her head off.
Yes, I almost did.
Let's see what we can do to fix that. Anyway,
He's trying to hide my earpiece.
anyway, we may have some time at the end to turn our mics on and ask our very special guests a question or two. But we'll see what kind of time we have. You can always put your question in the chat on any of the platforms. We're going to try and keep our eyes on Rumble and YouTube to see if anything comes in.
Correct.
You'll see the website scrolling along the bottom, so if you're listening on demand, as many of our listeners do, they'll be listening on the way to work tomorrow, Red. They can go right to that website and they can direct any questions that they might have toward our special guest.
Absolutely
But
can.
before we introduce our special guest, Red, we made it through the 250 weekend.
Yes, we did. And it was a good day.
It was a good day. It was for us. It was very quiet. I do see that Catherine is in the backstage, and we're happy to hear that Catherine didn't have any damage from the storms that hit last week in her area. But unfortunately, there were a couple deaths on the lake. 3 young children passed away, and
unfortunately, yeah.
We reached out to Catherine the day it happened, and thankfully nothing. She's back here and she's ready to keep going like she does all the time. But
absolutely.
But we had a good 4th of July weekend, Red. It was pretty quiet for us. Got together with some friends and had a very quiet cookout.
It was a lot of fun because you got to pick on Amanda.
I did get to pick on Amanda a little bit, and she's my new Facebook friend, and I've been picking on her every day.
Yeah, she's awesome. She went to, she went with us to feed the homeless
on Christmas Eve.
On Christmas
a couple
Eve,
years ago.
a couple years ago.
She had a ball,
and she cannot wait to do it again.
So, in any event, it was a good 4th of July, and we were dark last week, the entire network. We were down. AJ gave us all the week off so that we could celebrate in any way we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And
we ended up without power for quite some time.
He was almost a day without it, I think.
Absolutely.
But in any event, we're back live tonight, and I saw the weather forecast today, Red. I thought, uh-oh, here we go again, because
Yep.
it seems like every time we have a show,
it's thunderstorms.
There's storms that roll through, and then our internet is spotty, and we worry about power and all the things that we need to get our voices out there. But knock on wood, we had some rain earlier.
Yep, we did have the rain just probably, an hour ago.
A few rumbles of thunder.
So far, so good.
So everything's good right now on the western shores of Lake Michigan, and we are about ready to, I think we should bring on our special guest. I am so impressed by this young man.
I am too, very much so.
So, folks, I do have I have one video that I'm going to play, and I don't know, should I play that before we introduce our special guest?
You know what? I think you should.
Okay,
just
Red made the call. We're
going
to give you a taste about the young man that you're about to hear from for the next hour or so. And I'll tell you what, like I said, I am so impressed with this young man. I really am. And
he's a heck of a lot smarter than what a lot of us are. That's for sure.
Yeah, he can run circles around me. I know that, Red.
Yes, he can.
So
in more ways than one.
let's see if I can make it work.
Oh, I don't know.
Let's try it.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Brayden Myer, and I'm a mega Republican running to be your next Secretary of State. I'm from Manitowoc, born and raised there. I'm proud to say my family has a long history of military service. I was the vice president of my high school Young Republicans and treasurer for the UW Green Bay College Republicans. I graduated high school with 91 credits through a dual enrollment program at UW Green Bay. 6 months later, I graduated with my bachelor's in political science, minors in public administration, democracy and justice studies, and a certificate in organizational development. I ran for school board before, and guess who took an ad out on me? The Manitowoc Brewing Company. Kirk Bangstad doesn't scare me. I also run my college chapter of Moms for Liberty. I've testified in Madison, keep boys out of girls' sports and locker rooms, and teachers can't call students with different pronouns without their parents' permission. I'm proud to run the Manitowoc County Patriots. I'm a small business owner, and I'm the only candidate with experience as a congressional staffer. I have numerous former and current legislators who have endorsed me, current and former party leaders such as former Sheboygan GOP Chair Russ Otten, who has endorsed me. Now, it's time to send a fire down the Madison. This is what we got to do with the office. Put all the records online that it manages for our state. Make them free. 2, we got to doge the Secretary of State's office. 3, It chairs the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands, and these give out loans to local governments. Instead of giving them for solar panels, let's give them for fixing our roads. And most importantly, when you sit me down to Madison, I'm going to fight to abolish the corrupt Wisconsin Elections Commission and get the Secretary of State put in charge of elections. We're going to clean our voter rolls, make them free, and go to hand count paper ballots only.
Woo! Sorry.
That, like I said, this young man impresses me beyond words. So, without further ado, let's bring on our very special guest. Please welcome and give a warm We the People welcome to our very special guest, Brayden Myer. Yay! Brayden, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. That was a great speech that you worked very hard to give at that state convention, Brayden.
Thank you so much.
And we're probably going to talk a little bit about what the hoops that you had to go through but let's start.
Let's start at the beginning. How about that?
You introduce yourself a little bit to people, but let's just introduce yourself to our audience, all the people listening on YouTube and people that are filing into the backstage now. Let's get a feel for what Brayden Myer is, who this young man is.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit about my background. You heard a little about it in that speech, but I will, of course, expand a little bit. So from Manitowoc, that's where I'm born and raised. You know, my family grew up here as well. I'm proud to be a lifelong Wisconsinite. And both my dad, grandparents, uncles, they all, it goes back generations, my family with their military service. So I have a strong appreciation for our nation's veterans. And how I got so many credits in high school, it was my junior and senior year. There was this new dual enrollment program that I was actually part of the second generation of students to go through this program. So it was brand new, but I thought it was a fantastic program. It helped me definitely get a head start in college and honestly more of a head start in life to go through all these, 91 credits by the time I finished high school. And then it only took me 6 months after I graduated high school to graduate from UW Green Bay. And during my time in high school, that's when I was the vice president of my Young Republicans. And then during college, there was actually no college Republicans when I first went there. So I met a good friend of mine who said, I'm thinking of opening up the college Republicans. Would you like to help open up with me? And I said, absolutely. So I became the treasurer and we helped bring it back. We definitely needed a strong presence there. So going on, forward, that is when I was in my final semester of college and put my papers in to run for school board. And I can guarantee you, the left did not hold back. They did their usual tactics you've seen school board races across the nation, but that did not stop me from spreading my message of, parental choice and how we need to have less government involved in our lives. But I didn't quite make it. That doesn't mean that I stopped with my message. I continue fighting and formed my county's chapter of Moms for Liberty, where I currently serve as the chapter chair. Then the next election came around, and during that election is when I went down to Madison to testify on those two bills of keeping boys out of girls' sports and locker rooms, as well as teachers not calling students by different pronouns without their parents' permission. Now, those two bills, since they were related to gender, that is when the left showed up in the hundreds. And just because of how many were there to testify, I was in that room for a whole 10 hours for those two bills. But it was certainly worth it because we need a lot more common sense heard down in Madison. And you heard in that speech how that brewing company took a pack out of me. And quite frankly, They didn't stop me either. There was nothing that was going to stop me from spreading my message. I was, completely unfearful of everything they threw at me. So even though I didn't make it, I did set a record for the most votes a conservative candidate ever earned running for my school board. And again, just like when I ran the first time, I kept fighting afterwards. That is when I formed the Manitowoc County Patriots. I've also been a proud congressional staffer, and I'm a small business owner.
So folks, that's Brayden in a nutshell, and I can tell you, uh, Brayden has been very active, like
Very.
more active than 100% of the people in this community. He really has. He's
Absolutely.
been at school board meetings nonstop.
If I remember correctly, you spoke at every single school board meeting, whether you were running for school board or not. You during the public comments. Am I correct?
Yes, I gave well over 20 speeches over 2 years on just about every topic that people were concerned about.
That's
amazing.
It's just it is amazing. And folks, if you're not familiar with Manitowoc Brewing, if you're listening from outside of Wisconsin, Manitowoc Brewing is owned by a very far left kind of a loose cannon guy who's gotten himself in some hot water with some offers that he's making, and we won't get into that. But he runs a pack, and this is a couple 100 miles from here.
Yep.
And Brayden ran for school board.
Yeah,
and
for school board.
This leftist pack put out a
hit
mailer
piece
on Brayden Myer.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible, and it shows you what people think of him.
Yep, and we actually stopped at his business on the way back home a couple weeks ago, basically to ask him if we could get his endorsement for you, but he wasn't there.
Yeah, that was after his place was raided.
Yeah.
But enough of Kurt
Anyway.
Bankstad. We don't want to talk about him because we'll be able to talk about him at some point, because I'm sure another mailer will come out from good old Kurt.
Oh yeah. I will say really quick on YouTube, Mary is saying he is a very impressive young man.
So that's coming from the YouTube audience, Brayden. So Brayden, so let's get the elephant out of the way here right away, because I know there are people out there who cast votes who are going, oh, but he's so young. What do you say to people who question your age?
Yes, so I have been asked that question before, and to that I say, as a young person, I not only have the time to do this, I have the energy, I have the direct education and experience that relates to this office more than all of my opponents do. And I also have the passion to implement my plan, which I will talk about, that's going to benefit all Wisconsinites.
Well, not to mention, do you recall, and I don't recall myself, how old were the people that signed the Constitution of the United States? Am I hearing a siren?
I don't know if that is or not. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay.
But they were young, right, Brayden? I mean, they were young men who wrote and signed our Constitution, some of them.
That's correct.
We don't mean to sound distracted, but we're hearing all kinds of sirens right here.
Yeah, and
so
I'm not sure if that's like the tornado siren
if we go off air, folks,
then we got taken away.
Say a prayer for us.
Anyway, sorry for the distraction. So, in my opinion, if the founders of the Constitution were young men, not like you and I age, not middle age, what does that tell you about Brayden's age?
And this
Don't judge an age.
And this young man is so intelligent, and you're going to hear more from Brayden as we go through the night here. We're not going to stop. So, Brayden, I'm not even sure what order I want to go in. So why do you feel that now is the time for you to run for Secretary of State? And why did you choose Secretary of State as the race that you wanted to enter as a candidate?
Yes, that's a good question. So what motivated me to run is the fact, if you look at the Secretary of State's office, we've had the same status quo leadership for the past half century. And quite frankly, I see the need for change not 50 years from now, not 10 years from now. We need change now that's going to benefit all Wisconsinites. And, if you look at all the elections together, we're going to be having, elections for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, legislators, a bunch of elections that are going to get a lot of new faces in the government. There's going to be a new political atmosphere next year. I want to be part of that new political atmosphere that's going to bring in some real change and ensure people do want to bring that change to Madison.
Okay, so there are so many things. I want to know what your plan is for the office, but let's get this one out of the way, because I know that folks who listen to my program, you talked about the fact that for half a century that the office was under the tutelage of Doug LaFollette. Almost like 50 years he was in the role of Secretary of State, and surprisingly, I didn't know this, he never oversaw an election, because it was removed from the Secretary of State right before he was first elected. I know that many of my listeners want WEC to go. Can you just address the Wisconsin Elections Commission and your desire to bring elections back under the Secretary of State?
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge problem we have right now, the Wisconsin Elections Commission in general. The one word that I can use to describe it, if I had to choose just one word, is corrupt. They don't follow the law. They basically do what they want, and what they say is, what you have to follow. If you don't believe in what we say, then too bad. That is pretty much the message they have pushed. And I don't believe in having a board of unelected bureaucrats that, as voters, none of us have any way of holding them accountable. So it's a huge problem that if we would have an elected official, which would be the Secretary of State, overseeing these elections, that way, if the voters say, well, the Secretary of State is not doing a good job, we're going to vote someone new in. That way they have that direct line of accountability.
And I love that,
Right,
because I
so-
think the office of Secretary of State, in my opinion, that is where the elections should be accountable, not, like you said, the unelected bureaucrats. And I will say, Jeremy in the backstage here says Brayden's history of speaking at the local level speaks volumes. I'd rather see a youngster as a leader, bringing energy and drive to make change. Thank you, Brayden, for throwing your hat in the ring of Madison, or into the ring of Madison corruption. Absolutely.
And Brayden really has a vision. So Brayden, to the folks who listen to our program, and they've been clamoring for one-day voting in person with an ID on paper and hand counting ballots. Do you think that kind of can we return to that format?
Or will it take months to count those ballots?
So that format that you just described is what I believe is the best way to conduct our elections. It's the best in that it's the most secure way to make sure that there's no fraud going on behind the scenes. If we have, the same day in-person voting with voter ID, that way all these vulnerabilities we've been seeing for years can, at least at the most, be minimized. And I want to fully endorse this policy right now on air. The fact that the SAVE Act, even though it hasn't passed, it needs to pass. I fully endorse the SAVE Act. I do not see any reason why we should not have, when you go and vote, require proof that the person voting is who that person who he says he is.
Right, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you on that, Brayden. I have to do this, folks. And Brayden, we can talk about anything you want tonight, but I have to play a clip because you there is an endorsed candidate by the RPW, and my listeners all know this because they've heard me complain about the way this was done, the way it was handled.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an RPW endorsed candidate. And folks, you heard Brayden. He supports one day in person with an ID
on paper
and hand counting ballots. And I want to
count.
see. I need you to see, folks, what one of Brayden's opponents in the August 11th primary says
about the
elections
machines
like
and
this.
the on paper hand count. Hang on.
And this is the only time I will mention this guy's name
Well,
the entire night. Well, maybe
no,
not.
one more time because we have a question to
Okay.
ask to confirm or deny.
Nate, thanks to your interview on the regular Joe show.
Yep.
And from what I can tell, it seems like you're the only candidate in this race who's machine count for elections.
So I don't know how well you're hearing the question. The question was asked. I heard you on another radio program, and he was talking about machine counting of ballots. Is kind of the question.
And he was on the regular Joe show stating that he's the only candidate that wants the machines.
So now we'll let it play out, and this is the RPW endorsed candidate's response.
Like you didn't say you necessarily supported it, but like you were open to it. Could you explain why you were open to that?
I'm open to it because I'm not saying that it's a problem. I know through studies and scientific studies and analysis that a machine count ballot is statistically more likely to be more accurate than a hand counted ballot. That's why. Also, you would have a mutiny of county clerks and town clerks if they weren't allowed to machine count the ballots. I mean, this is a very simple process. Many of our ballots have 10, 15 different things on them. You would have to count every ballot in your municipality 10 to 15 different times. Do the math on how long that's going to take. And we're not going to talk about knowing this night of then. We're going to be talking about doing this months later. I think paper ballots are very important because you have to have that backup on the ballots. You know, you have to be able to hand count them, you have to be able to go and look. You know, we should be doing double checks. You know, but that can come a couple days down the road. You know, because you can be off 2 or 3 ballots on that. But if you ask 10 people to count the same pile of ballots, and there's 100 in them, you're going to have 10 different answers.
Then you count them again.
So that is the RPW endorsed candidate who seems to think that machines are the only way to go, that we're not going to know the results of elections if we hand count for months down the road. And I can tell you they conducted some
In other
hand
words,
count.
he's lazy.
They had some hand count trainings leading up to this election, hoping that we would be in a position where we were hand counting ballots this time around.
Correct.
And I can assure you they've got people in place ready to count these things and have results the same day. Brayden, what do you think of this jokester's response that it will take months to determine the outcome of an election if we hand count ballots?
So to the claim that if we hand counted ballots, it would take months to determine the election, there's one question to that claim you need to ask back. And that question is, what did we do before we had machines to count these ballots, and how long did that take? I can guarantee you, before we had machines and when it was just counting by hand, it did not take months to count these ballots. You would know the results of the election by the end of the night. There were, not every municipality in the United States today uses machines, and the ones that do count ballots by paper, with hand, that the results by the end of the night. So you can actually, if you know who Dr. Frank is, he's a very strong election integrity activist. He has come to Wisconsin before and done hand counting, trainings, and I have attended one of those trainings, so I know what the process is for counting ballots. And I can tell you, it would not take months to count these ballots, especially since when you have people counting ballots, they're not just one person alone counting the ballots. You have multiple people there doing that.
And speaking of Dr. Frank, he will be in Manitowoc next, well, since we're doing the commercial here, or halftime.
Hold on, Brayden. We will be right back in about 2 minutes.
So speaking of Dr. Frank, he's going to be in Manitowoc next Thursday at Forgiven Coffee Shop at 10 a.m. until noon. And he has since been, he went to South Korea to oversee their elections just recently. And he's going to bring some information of how our elections are very similar and what's happened.
And not just Manitowoc.
No,
he's
there's
making several
locations.
stops over a several day period.
Yep.
And Dr. Frank, who appeared on this show not too long ago,
And
has agreed
again.
to sit down and talk with us, and we will videotape that, and we will definitely bring it to the airwaves at some point after we talk to Dr. Frank.
Yes. So if you're in Manitowoc, we are the furthest north location that he is going to be at next week.
Unfortunately, he did try to get into Brown County or
But
one
Brown
of the counties
County
up there,
never got back to us.
but we couldn't make it work. So
Yep.
if you want to see Dr. Frank, the furthest north he's coming is Manitowoc.
Yep. 10 a.m. So it's on the 16th at Forgiven Coffee Shop. It'll be on the upper level at 10 a.m. until noon. So if you need any more information about other locations he's going to be in, what days and times, let us know and we will get you that information.
Absolutely. What else do we have?
And no,
Brad?
he does not charge.
No, he does. He does
Absolutely
not
not.
charge. The man is amazing.
Yeah. And
the
he's
information that he puts
shown
out
me some things that I questioned over the years about somebody that I know that is no longer in state, and watching that person's voting record or voting status. Yeah, he's given me a lot of insight on that. So he's amazing. You have got to see him while he's here.
So try and see Dr. Frank while he's in Wisconsin on his next tour of Wisconsin. But if you're not able to, watch for the show promos, because we will definitely replay our discussion when we sit down privately with Dr. Frank and
Absolutely.
let him dazzle us like he always does, Red.
He definitely does. He blows me away each time.
Did the music? Sometimes this music stops and then it starts again. I think we're good, Red.
I don't know.
Boy, the timing
Are
of that
we?
was the timing of Brayden bringing up Dr. Frank was perfect, because we
Yes.
got to get in a plug for Dr. Frank.
And I didn't know if you knew that he was coming back to Wisconsin, Brayden.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, Brayden.
That's okay.
Did you know that Dr. Frank was coming back next week?
Yes, I heard he's coming in. I believe 6 stops he's making next week.
Correct.
All right, so let's move on. So Brayden, you said in your speech.
Can you talk tonight?
I can't speech very well tonight, but you mentioned that the office of the Secretary of State needs to be doged. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term Doge, think Elon Musk and all the fraud and waste that was found by the Doge team. Do you want to expand on your plan to Doge the office of the Secretary of State, Brayden?
Yes, so obviously when we're looking at, making an office as efficient as possible, we need to be taking a look at, is everything that it's being provided right now needed? So just to give an example, if we look at the last budget that was passed, the Secretary of State used to have 2 employees in the office, but now it has 6 employees in the office. But here's the thing. The office did not have any more duties added to it. In fact, as we increased the amount of staffing that was put into the Secretary of State's office, we took duties away from it. The main thing that the Secretary of State does right now It's our state's official records holder. And some of the record keeping duties were transferred into another department. So I do not believe that was an appropriate, use of funding allocation in regards to our state budget, putting that into this office when, what else can we expect from our government? We're adding more workers there with less duties. I would not expect anything less from our modern day government.
And
Well, you nailed that on the
you
head.
said you're a small business owner, Braden. I mean, nobody in the business world would do that. Would they bring additional people on and pay the same amount for or pay additional labor,
For
but
nothing.
ask for less work? I mean, it doesn't make any sense that we would do this.
Right. I certainly wouldn't as a small business owner.
Absolutely. And technically, we're small business owners too,
And-
and there's no way in heck I would do it.
This is the problem with Madison, and this is why we need people like you, Braden, to, uh, Doug LaFollette, who was in that office for 50 years. In fact, at one point, he even suggested, well, we should just eliminate the position because we don't do anything. I mean, it's crazy, but yet he collected that salary for almost 50 years. He didn't think so little of it that he thought about walking away until after he was elected last time.
Exactly. You know what? I'm gonna kind of maybe go off topic just a tad bit, but I have to verify this or deny it, whichever the case may be. Because this has really been bugging me since you got that phone call this weekend. So, Braden, one of our listeners had contacted Screech, and he had attended the Antigo 4th of July parade and described an interaction that witnessed involving you and the RPW endorsed candidate, Nate Polnow. They said that Mr. Polnow was running up behind you with his hands kind of above his head, and when he got to you, like I said, coming up behind you, when he got to you, he kind of slammed his hands down on your shoulders rather forcefully and asked, "What are you doing, Braden?" This person had told Screech that they thought that he was going to end up knocking you down. Can you kind of tell us if that's true, if it's not true?
And
What happened?
And if it was true, was this just a jovial exchange between two candidates vying for the same seat, or can you tell us, did it happen the way this person told me, Braden?
Yes, so that interaction you described did happen at the Anago 4th of July parade. And obviously, no one expects someone to run up behind them and slam their hands down on their shoulder or anywhere on your body. It was, like I said, unexpected. And, when I was just walking and talking with voters, there's probably on both sides of the streets, if you add everyone up, at least 60 people who witnessed that happen. And I have never done, anything that would, provoke that sort of treatment from, not just candidates, from anyone. All I was doing was minding my own business and shaking people's hands.
Unbelievable.
So was it this person who called me, Braden? I'm just going to tell you, he said, I thought that this guy was going to knock him to the ground, and referring to you. I mean, was it that kind of a push on the back that where you were at risk of falling?
Yeah, so I did not fall down from this interaction, but there was a lot of force when contact was made on my shoulders.
Unbelievable. And the reason we had to ask Braden was because when I got that phone call, there's a county chair north of here whose wife had an interaction with Mr. Polnow, who was very
Excuse me.
tried to bully her into signing his nomination papers, and she was quite upset by it.
Yep.
And I remember,
turned out that she signed yours, and he wasn't very happy.
and I remember that story, and I just thought, is this and I've never met the man. I've seen him on video, as you saw. I captured that video, but I've heard that he has kind of a bullying nature to him, and I wondered if it happened the way this guy told me, that it was a very forceful kind of a hit on the back, and what are you doing, Brayden? And I'm
And it
not sure
makes
what
me
he would.
wonder, why did he do it?
And I'm not sure why he would have asked, "What are you doing, Brayden?" I mean, you were clearly walking in a parade, as he was, meeting potential voters, and it's just crazy to think that we've gotten to a point where
Physical violence
I
in a parade?
I ran for office, and I never thought about having an interaction like that with
No.
my opponent.
No.
Anyway, well, thanks for clarifying that, Brayden.
It's been bugging me.
It's been driving Red crazy ever
Yeah.
since I received the call. Just wondering if it was what it was. So thank you for that, Brayden.
One more follow-up question to that. Are you afraid of going to any other parades or events in the future? Because in my opinion, that seems like it's almost like a scare tactic to not show up.
He's not afraid of Kurt Bangstad.
Good
He's not going to be
point,
afraid
good
of Nate
point.
Holmow.
But I'll let him answer that himself.
Yes, so there is nothing that, with everything that is going on during this campaign, with how the status quo, how they've thrown everything at me, at this point, there is nothing that's going to stop me from getting my message out and meeting the people. I'll just leave it as that, because I did not get in this race to back down from anything. I got in this race to make a real change and show the people this is the government we can have. And no matter what comes my way, I'm going to be there to represent you.
And that's exactly what I love.
Absolutely. So Brayden, you've go ahead.
RJ's asking, what's the next parade you're walking in?
I think you have some people that want to walk in a parade with you, Brayden. Do you have any parades on your schedule? And we'll talk about this at the end, but very quickly to pass by RJ. Do you have any parades coming up?
Yes, I do have some parades. I would have to get my calendar up because there's a few, but if anyone's ever interested in walking in a parade with me, feel free to go to my website and send me a message, and I'll let you know which parades are coming up that you can walk with me in.
Awesome.
And how many parades did you do over the 4th of July weekend?
Yeah, so on the weekend, I did 6 4th of July parades.
How many?
6 parades over the weekend.
Wow.
So, and I know, Brayden, do you have any idea how many miles you've logged since you announced your candidacy?
Just to give an estimate, I've probably been getting close to 50,000 miles by now, if not more.
I know that you have been all over, and I have some friends who live up in the Sawyer County, and they shared with me that you had, like, on a whim, you heard about a Patriot meeting they were having, and you heard about it the same day. And this is a lengthy drive, folks, if you're not from Wisconsin, geographically, where Brayden is compared to, it's like a 6-hour drive or a 5-hour
five
drive.
and a half, something like that.
Depends. If Corey's driving, it might be 5. If I'm driving, it's 6. But Brayden heard about this Patriot meeting and drove the 5 hours and got there just in time.
Yep.
And impressed the hell out of the 25 or 30 or 40 people that were in attendance. And I checked out Brayden's Facebook page, and I'm not going to lie, folks, I know Brayden. We live in the same community.
Yeah.
But he has been all over the state. He's been like the Energizer Bunny.
Absolutely.
Just nonstop. And in fact, I have a picture of Brayden and I where we met at like 12:30 at night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Under the cover of darkness, because I wanted to get him on this show. So that was the only time for me to catch him. It was like, can we meet someplace? And he said, well, I'll be back in town at 12:30.
And at that same parade, I'm also told that I think his name was Kyle Schrader or something like that, also told Brayden that he can't walk with the Tom Tiffany um, portion of the parade or float or whatever it is, and it's only the endorsed candidates that could
And
walk.
and now for clarity, Braden, were you trying to walk with the Tom Tiffany contingency in that parade? My understanding was that wasn't the case, that you were ahead of them and eventually they caught up because you talked to everybody at the parade. Am I right?
That's correct. When I was at the parade, I was walking up and down the sides and meeting people, letting them know who I am. I was not paying any close attention to any floats that were passing by.
Wow. And I will say, I don't know if you're really reading any of the chat right now, but Keeter says, not sure what you're up to Labor Day weekend, but we are looking to have a booth at the Portage County Fair over Labor Day weekend in Rossholt. I can never say that one right.
Rosholt.
You're more than welcome to stop in. They have a parade Saturday morning also. And Kimber Rollins says the situation about, well, that one. Sorry, Kimber. Pulaski has a parade that's pretty huge as well.
So now you're getting more parades to put on your calendar, and I can tell you that Keith Keith and Jeremy both are in the backstage, and they're part of Americans for Life and Liberty out of the central Wisconsin Stevens Point area, and a good group of patriots, and we're going to get you connected with them. And Keeter extended an invitation, the parade, and they are going to have a booth at the fair, and sounds like you're welcome to join them at their booth for a little while if you'd like. So. Keep that in mind, and we can connect the two of you.
And Corey B says Polka Days, which is Pulaski Polka Days. That'd be a great one. Keeter also says RPPC leadership got another earful from him on Friday about how horrible the RPW was doing. So, and you know what? Speaking of which, do you know if your literature is making it into any of these county parties' offices?
Well, there are certain county parties, even after the endorsement vote has occurred, that they are still allowing my literature in their offices. I've stopped by, I've talked with the people at a few of these parties, and I'm very grateful that they are willing to allow my message to be spread in their offices.
And I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that there are some county parties that are coming around
Yes, me too.
being open to that. And I know you have the support of some county party leaders because I've heard it, and people have a high level of respect for the effort you're putting into this. You are nonstop go, and just a very impressive young man, Brayden. I have to ask you this because someone asked me to ask you, and I know that the RAC money doesn't find its way into the Secretary of State race, but I also know that there are candidates who have taken RAC money
as a Secretary of State candidate,
and as when they run for other offices. But we're talking about RAC money and Sears money, and if money were made available to you from either of these groups or similar groups, Brayden, would you accept that money?
Yes, so whether it was from RAC, SIRS, or like you said, any other group that is similar, I would not any sort of contribution from those groups, because once I would accept a contribution, then I am in debt to do whatever they demand once I get sent down to Madison. And when I get sent down to Madison, I am not going to be following the demands of special interest groups. I am going to be following the demands of my constituents.
and I love that.
That's
Because I won't name names, but I have looked at all of your campaign contributions that I have seen reported so far, and I will say there are some that are taking that money as the Secretary of State, which really surprises me because I thought that rack was for assembly. So,
Well, in any event,
yeah.
I think that's important for people to hear, Brayden, because nobody wants, you know, it happens all the time, and nobody wants their elected official who is beholden to special interest money, whether that be a RAC fund, that kind of special interest, or any lobbyist who's going to throw money at you. I applaud you for sticking to your grounds on that one, and allowing your campaign to be fueled by the people. And I do have to back up a little bit because I showed the clip of you at the state convention, and you weren't going to be allowed to speak at the convention. And I don't know, is it still showing? Is the screen still showing up?
No. Oh, the screen, yeah.
Okay, because it's gone.
Oh.
It's gone on my computer right now. I played the convention speech, and Brayden, you did everything right, and you still had to fight to get 2 minutes at the convention. And what was it? You had to raise $10,000 from a minimum number of donors. Am I right?
Yeah, so one of the criteria factors that was put forth for the Secretary of State candidates to meet was that monetary requirement of raising $10,000 from at least 100 individual donors by March 31st, which I did meet and presented all the evidence of meeting that to the RPW endorsement committee, which in return, after they looked, they still said you didn't meet that criteria.
When did they tell you that you had to have these certain criteria in order to speak at convention?
The first email that I received from the RPW in regards to the whole speaking situation was in April. It was 3 days before the endorsement committee met to determine if I met that criteria. And then only 2 days before they had the interviews was when I was actually informed they were going to be having these interviews. Whereas certain other candidates were informed months in advance from what I've heard, but I was only informed 3 days in advance.
You know, it's funny that you say that because we asked a certain county party chair about that, and he claims that you found out about that back in March. So about a month and a half, I believe it was, he said, ahead of time.
So
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so as I was just saying before, that was my first official email that actually informed me these are all of the criteria I had to meet. I heard rumblings from other people that there were certain requirements, but I did not have the full list saying this is what we actually have to do. And I had no clue how they were going to determine if I had met such criteria until the week of the actual interview.
Right. And I don't know if we want to ask that one on air or wait until after the backstage.
yeah, we do have a question that
Yeah.
maybe is going to be better for backstage,
Better suited
Brayden,
for
because I don't want to
backstage.
put you in a position where you have to name names, and you may not want to anyway, and you may not know them. But we'll hold that question for backstage. So
Right.
if you're listening on Rumble and YouTube and you want to hear what that question was, you're just going to have to pop into the backstage, because I'm convinced that I'm certain we can convince Brayden to hang around for a little bit after the show ends for some
Absolutely.
questions from the people in the backstage who might have one. I'm looking down my list. So Brayden, we are almost up against the hour. As we look ahead to now we're in the final month here. In just a little more than a month, people are going to be stepping into the polls. Just wondering what your top priorities are during the remainder of the campaign leading to the primary.
Yeah, so my main priority is, most importantly, get out and shake people's hands, make people aware that we have the Secretary of State's race up this year, and it's going to be a very important race. This election, it's more than just about what the office currently does. It's what it will be doing by next year or over the next few years. A couple things that I also would like to mention in my platform that have not been discussed yet tonight. One is the fact that since the Secretary of State is our state's official records holder for the legislative and executive branches for our government, what I want to do is put all these records online into one easily accessible website and make sure that the people can access them for free. Because when they're called public records, I don't believe citizens should have to pay to see what their government's up to. And another important role the Secretary of State also plays, it chairs the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands. And this board, what it does is provide loans to local governments to fund various projects. Historically, the board has given out a loan for building solar panels, which I see as way too politically divisive. I would rather have these loans go toward critical infrastructure needs, like fixing our roads.
Oh, here, and we all know, we all drive on the street, the roads in Wisconsin, and many of them are in need of serious work. Uh, you've got some great ideas. If there's anything else that you want to talk about, Brayden, about your platform, please feel free, and because we can run over here a little bit if we need to.
Yep.
I think it's important that people understand who you are and what you want to. I will. There was a question in the backstage. If you happen to be the only Republican elected in November, do you believe you can still be effective if you're surrounded? Let's just assume that, or let's have a nightmare that the Democrats take control of the governor's desk, and maybe they get the majority in the other two houses. Can you be effective as a Republican Secretary of State is the question.
Yeah, so if I was the only Republican elected for statewide office, obviously it wouldn't be the most ideal situation, but I would still be able to be effective in that, as a statewide elected official, I can certainly expose all the corruption that's going on behind the scenes, and I can start to work out building that website, making all these records online, putting them out there for free, because there are the staff in the office to help make sure all the duties are running properly. And with me being elected there and overlooking all these records, I will put them out there because I don't want anything to be hidden from the public. We need to make sure our government is being as transparent as possible.
And I love that because I know some people that try to get those voter rolls and stuff, and it's like I believe 12,500 every time they do it, and that to me is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
I fully agree.
So in terms of
okay.
in terms of the voter roll, I think you said in your speech at the convention that you would. What would be your plan with the voter rolls if you had the opportunity to fix our to help fix our elections?
Yes, so when it comes to our voter rolls, one of the main things we need to be doing with them is auditing them. And when we audit them, we have to be doing so on a regular basis. We have over currently 8 million people on our voter rolls when we don't even have that number of people living in Wisconsin. And on top of that, the number of people actually living in Wisconsin, not all those people are adults. Not all of them are eligible to vote. So the number of eligible voters is even lower. And when you have all these extra voters on the voter rolls, that sets up a lot of potential for fraud. Those people need to be taken off just to make sure that only the people that are eligible to vote are on the voter rolls.
Oh yeah, I'll give you an
Absolutely.
applause for that one, Brayden.
Let's see. Corey B says, I believe the Assembly/Senate has made it a law, state law, that we remain in the ERIC system. How do you put that information out there like you're talking if ERIC has that full power?
Yes, so it can actually start right now on the campaign trail, letting people know. I have been asked about that before. I have given my thoughts on the fact that there are better ways to conduct our elections than that system. And once I get elected as Secretary of State, I will be down in Madison every week. I will be putting in a lot of hard work. I'll be knocking on a lot of people's doors in that capital to make sure that my plan will be implemented, because the voters are the ones that will have sent me down there on my plan to secure our elections. And when these legislators see me going all around the state and me speaking in front of these crowds, and a lot of these crowds are their constituents, and they see them getting behind this plan, they realize there is a demand to have secure and verifiable elections. And once they see their constituents get behind that, then I believe that also gets them to get behind that as well.
All right, Brayden. So, because I know that you are just super busy, and I hope that you can hang around for a few minutes in case anybody has any additional questions that they might want to ask you. But as we close out the show, you want to just tell people how they contact you if they want to donate to your campaign, as an example, because they cost money, and Brayden's not taking any special interest money. So we know how important that is. How can people reach you, and what are your closing thoughts or your ask of the people of the state of Wisconsin?
Yes, so if you would like to learn any more about my campaign or get involved, you can go to my website, braydenmyer.com. That is spelled BRAYDENMYER.com. On my website, you can, send me a message if you would like to walk in a parade, knock on some doors. You can host a meet and greet or a fundraiser. If you have any special skills you would like to lend my campaign, any way you would like to help, you can send me a message. Also is the donation button on my website, because like you said, running a campaign, it costs a lot of money. Just with gas alone, that is probably half of my campaign costs. When you're putting down tens of thousands of miles these months, it really does take a lot of gas in the tank to do that. So every little bit helps. Even if it's just $10 you can spare, it does go a long way.
And I will say real quick, Mary on YouTube says, thank you for a great show tonight. Brayden has got my vote, and I proudly display a yard sign in my front yard. So thank you, Mary.
There we go. So if folks want a yard sign, they can contact you through your website, correct, Brayden?
Correct.
No, he does not have a Tesla. Somebody asked in the backstage. So he has to pay for the actual fuel. He does not have an electric vehicle.
So, Brayden, I do have to ask one other question, because it was brought to my attention that there's some rumblings out there about the number of people in this race, and that maybe some people should step out. You would not do that, correct, at this point? You're in this until November, whatever the date is, November 3rd, correct?
During my whole campaign, I've had no intentions of dropping out. I've entered this race to make a change down in Madison, and I fully intend to make that change.
You're here.
Absolutely.
If
anybody else wants to drop out, so be it. But technically speaking, we go back to the challenge that we did on the signatures, and there's 2 people in this race that shouldn't even be on the ballot because of what WEC's own policy or law, the state law, whichever you want to call it, what it says, and they went against their own policies and the laws. So they're the ones that can be dropping
and
out.
folks, we've got a good candidate here.
Absolutely.
I am so impressed by this young man, and I've got there's not even a single part of me that says he's too young. There's not. This young man is so smart and well spoken. You've heard him, and I think he's the kind of guy that can go into Madison and use some force when he needs to, but also he can get along with people.
Well, yes, he can. And, I do know of one incident that he's kind of held people accountable, or a person accountable, and corrected them because he's read the county constitution, the state constitution, and I'm talking party wise, and I'm assuming he did the overall Wisconsin constitution as well. But some people were trying to pull a fast one, and he's like, no, 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 you can't do that because look at this is what it says in our constitution. You can't do it. And I heard that these people are not really caring for you right now because of that.
But in any event, we've got a good candidate here.
And I like that he held these people accountable. That's all I'm getting at.
So, Brayden, do you have any closing words for we the people tonight?
Yeah, so, a couple of things that I think are important to mention before we sign off. I do believe that with the recent revelation regarding the city of Green Bay with sending out those duplicate ballots for the second time this year, that was completely, first off, unnecessary, but also it could have been prevented. We saw it happen in the spring. It shouldn't have even happened in the first place, but to happen for a second time in the same year, only months apart, is completely unacceptable. And I am going to be watching to see what is done at the WEC meeting about that. We'll see if WEC follows the law this time or if they're just going to let it slide. And another important topic that I also wanted to bring up tonight was what happened with Harry Waite a few years ago with, seeing that you can request other people's ballots through the mail, and the fact that he actually did get someone else's ballot in the mail. And instead of WEC fixing this problem with their website, they decided they're going to go after him in court. So I actually did attend his sentencing. I was the only candidate to do so because I felt it was important to show up. We need to have people there to support, when someone is put on trial for doing nothing wrong, exposing the system. We live in a constitutional republic, and when people have, the guts to stand up and do right is right, they need to be recognized as heroes to our republic, and that is what I recognize him as. So first off, thank you, Harry, for doing that. Another recent court proceeding that I attended was with Jim Troupas's plea deal. I, again, was the only candidate there because I care what goes on in our constitutional republic. We need to make sure we have people down in Madison that are going to fight for secure and verifiable elections, and that is exactly what I'm going to do.
This doesn't happen often, Brayden. I'm going to tell you. So there are a few people in my life who can send like chills through my body when they speak, and I can tell you,
I've got chills right now.
You've just done it because you hit the nail on the head so often. I've spoken to you before, and you're an incredible candidate, and I can't thank you enough for coming on our little program tonight, our little show, and I hope that you know that you're welcome back here anytime to talk to We the People or even Tin Hat Nation if you want to reach out to a different group. We did have one question, and he's like, we're going to ask it because it really doesn't it doesn't apply to your plan at all, but go ahead and read the question that came from Flippin' Rippin' Rob.
What stood out the most to you for the 250th that was different from the past 4th of July celebrations?
Ooh, I mean, that is a fantastic question. Um, there was certainly, during 4th of July, we see a lot of people get out and celebrate the 4th. But I would say this year, I saw an exceptional amount of people getting out and celebrating 250 years of our nation. There are a lot of people out there who strongly believe in what the United States was founded on, I being one of those. And people today are not afraid to show it. They are not afraid to go out in public and say, I love the United States of America, and I'm going to do everything I can to preserve what the founders envisioned.
There you go, Rob. I thought
Well,
that
and
was
I was going to say he was like going to 6 different parades. Did you get a chance to see anything? But that was
well,
actually
close up.
I didn't
I
think of
think
it that
close
way.
up he saw it.
That's true. And I will say that we went to a certain store in town today, and I had my 250th shirt on. And the person, when I walked in the door, the worker is like, "What's up with all these 250th shirts?" And I'm like, um, "We just celebrated our 250th birthday this year for, our country." Oh, did we? I'm like, wow. I was completely blown away.
So then we told him, don't forget to vote on August 13th because we don't want people like that stepping into a voting booth. But
absolutely.
Folks, Brayden's a good candidate. You've seen his web address scrolling through the bottom of the screen for the entire hour. It's Brayden, BRAYDEN, MYER.com, I believe. Did I get that right, Brayden?
Yes.
So check him out on website. If you got a few extra bucks, you can slide his way to help fill the fuel tank, because this young man is going to be, I think he's probably hit every county in the state to date. And if he's missed one, it's on the agenda. I'm certain of it, because he's been to every little meeting across the state and big
there's
meetings.
Been some talk in the backstage about some other ones that, hey, you're more than happy to come here.
So
Come
there you
join
go.
us.
We're going to help you fill up your schedule. If it's not full already, you might have to squeeze a couple extra hours into the day.
And also, there will be a fundraiser coming up. The date has not been set in stone yet.
That's
but
being
watch for details.
That's being worked on. And Brayden, thank you so much for joining us on We the People Wednesday. If you have a few minutes yet, we're going to close out the show, but there are some people in the backstage who might have a question for you. If you're able to hang around for a few minutes, you're not obligated to, but we'd love to have you hang around for a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for allowing me to come on. I'm looking forward to making Wisconsin great again.
Amen.
Awesome. All right, folks, that was Brayden Myer that you got to listen to for the last hour and 10 minutes or so.
20 minutes, yeah, 15.
Really good candidate for Secretary of State. Brad, in my entire adult life, I've never seen so much emphasis being put on the Secretary of State race, and I haven't nailed it down why yet. Why?
Oh, I kind of figure I know why. Because they do not want to get rid of WEC.
Well, that might be.
And this young man is going to try or do whatever it takes to get rid of WEC.
But it goes beyond WEC, because that's still going to come down to our legislature making that call. But
right.
We got someone here who's ready to knock doors down. I mean, he's knocking doors now out on the campaign trail. He's ready to walk into the state capitol and start knocking on doors.
Absolutely.
And I think he's going to be a lot more influential than what people understand. And when you start talking about exposing fraud and things and doging the office of Secretary of State, that's the kind of people we need in Madison right now. We hear President Trump talk about draining the swamp, and the swamp doesn't exist only in Washington, D.C., as all of our listeners know, because we've talked about the crap that flows out of Madison, and Brayden mentioned Harry Wade, one of my personal heroes. We got a lot of cleaning up to do, and we need someone energetic like Brayden Myer. So check him out,
Absolutely.
BraydenMyer.com. Slide a few bucks his way. Brad, you and I will be back tomorrow night with Tin Hat Thursday.
Yes. We might have somebody come on with us, but I'm waiting to confirm.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And next Wednesday, it looks like we're going to have Jake Vandenplas. Is that his name?
Vanderplas, yeah.
Senate candidate in, I believe, Senate District 1. Jake's a great guy. I've known him for 4 years, and talked to him yesterday, and sounds like he's a go for next Wednesday. So
good. He's got a great story.
We are in campaign season, so folks, if you're going to get some candidates from time to time, and we started off the campaign season with a good one tonight.
Absolutely, we did.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow night, Red.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's stop wasting people's time, because
we have a republic to save.
Have a good night, folks. All right, I shut off the mic for a minute.
Keeter. Harry Big Balls, wait. And